Ladies and gentlemen, ito naman po tayo pangatlong yugto ng presentasyon ng ebidensya sa ICC na gusto nila makumpirma ang kaso laban kay Digong Duterte. So pakinggan lang po natin, makinig lang po tayo. Mamaya natin magko-comment. Ito, paakyat yung mga judges. Oo po yung mga judges. Ayan sila. Uy, bakit hindi nag-sounds?
The victims so that they can conclude their submissions on the merits. You have the floor.
Pattern or repeated operational methods, including late-night raids, forced entry without warrants, victims shot at close range,
Ang nagsasalita po si
similar
Atty. Masida.
post-incident
Ang
police
ginagawa niya,
reports,
kinikwento niya
inconsistent
nangyari
narrative
patayan.
of armed resistance, non-laban, planting of drugs and weapons, and the absence of genuine investigation demonstrates a systematic attack. This pattern is not a coincidence, it is structured. The use of similar operational narrative and particular assertions of armed resistance demonstrate consistency incompatible with isolated acts. Regardless of whether the direct perpetrators were formally identified as police officers, the similar tactics used show planning and coordination involving law enforcement authorities and, at times, local officials. Killings were not carried out by rogue officials or by vigilantes operating separately from the authorities. The police involvement in the killings extended well beyond the cases officially acknowledged as death arising from by-bust operations. Furthermore, the government failure to arrest, let alone prosecute, a single police officer for their role in any of the war on drug killings that Duterte has encouraged, sent a clear message that the one responsible need not fear accountability and can act with impunity. There is no evidence that Mr. Duterte took any steps to prevent or punish the responsible for the murders. On the contrary, as his numerous public statements made clear, he discounted the legality of police actions, showing no inclination or intent to investigate alleged crimes. Mr. Duterte encouraged the police to carry out his anti-drug campaign and repeatedly stated he would protect them from prosecution. On 19 July 2016, at a fellowship dinner with his former law school classmates, Mr. Duterte said the police officer could carry out their war on drugs without worrying about being prosecuted. He stated, and I quote, "The president can grant pardon, conditional or absolute, or grant amnesty with the concurrence of Congress. I will use it, believe me," end of quote. During a press conference on 21st August 2016, he also explained that his promises to protect the police was one of the reasons why the war on drugs had become so bloody, and I quote, "Remember, I went in warning everyone. I said it could be bloody because I knew that the police would now be equipped with a certain mindset, that they would be protected by law if they go in and have this, violent confrontation. Because before, they were afraid of these human rights, and a lot of them lost their jobs because they couldn't even have a lawyer to defend themselves," end of quote. Mr. Duterte also warned human rights organizations not to file cases against police and army officers for extrajudicial killings, saying, and I quote, I would like to say now, they will never go to prison, not under my watch. End of quote. This morning, Your Honor, Mr. Jeremy referred to the killing of the mayor of Albuera, Rolando Espinosa, who was killed inside the Leyte prison. At the time, the National Bureau of Investigation determined that the killings were a rub-out of two unarmed prisoners inside their cell and filed murder charges. Mr. Duterte responding, saying that the officers would not be prosecuted with these words, and I will quote, "I will not allow this," meaning officers, "go to prison. I don't care if the NBA says it is murder. Anyway, the NBA and the Department of Justice are both under my authority. I will be the one to answer for it and go to prison." End of quote. On his third day in office as president, Mr. Duterte publicly told police officers that he would pardon them if they kill drug dealers and drug addicts, using these words, quote, "Do your duty. And if in the process you kill 1,000 persons because you're doing your duty, I will protect you." End of quote. Given the prevailing perception of police impunity and the absence of effective investigations or prosecutions, in many cases, victims did not file a complaint nor try to initiate criminal proceedings. As one family member of a victim explained to us, and I quote, "We had no hope for an investigation of the police. One of us saw one of the police go inside with an aluminum briefcase. He took out a gun and some shabu socket and placed them next to the body. I went back to where I was, and I was totally shocked. I couldn't even complain. If we go complain, what is our chance against the authorities?" End of quote. In other cases, victims tried to seek justice. They went to the police, to local officials, to government agencies. They filed reports, they asked for investigation, they begged for answers, but their pleas were ignored, their complaints were dismissed, their testimonies were doubted. In some cases, the very people they approached for help were the same ones involved in the violence. They were left with no path forward. No institution was willing to hear them. No authority was willing to protect them. No system was willing to acknowledge what was happening. The attack against the civilian population was carried out pursuant to a state policy to neutralize, through violent crimes, including murder, individuals perceived or alleged to be involved in drug-related and other crimes. The policy was originally developed by Mr. Duterte and his close associates in Davao City and implemented locally, and then expanding to the national level in 2016, once Mr. Duterte became president of the Republic of the Philippines. Victims support the primary prosecution pleading and submit that the evidence shows the existence of such a policy, as reflected in the repeated patterns of conduct, the mobilization of state resources, Mr. Duterte's public endorsement, and institutional tolerance. Mr. Duterte first ran for mayor of Davao in 1988 on a campaign to restore law and order in the city, the largest of the main southern island of Mindanao. At that time, Davao was known as the murder capital of the Philippines. Communist insurgents and government security forces gunned each other down and many civilians day and night on Davao streets and barrios. Mr. Duterte was Davao mayor for most of the years between 1988 and 2016. Local NGOs indicate that squad killings of alleged drug dealers, petty criminals, and street children in Davao City started sometimes in the mid-90s, during Mr. Duterte's second term. The group that claimed to be responsible for the killings was called Suluguon Sakatuan, or Servants of the People, amongst other names. But soon the media, as you have also heard in these days, the media began referring to it as the Davao Death Squad. The Davao Death Squad killed hundreds. Mr. Duterte endorsed the killings as an effective way to combat crime, relishing his Duterte nickname and reputation. His active promotion of the killing of suspected drug offenders led to a sharp increase in such killings during his time as mayor. According to one estimate, amongst the other that you have been shown yesterday and today, at least 1,424 such killings took place in Davao between 1988 and 2015. As you heard yesterday during the presentation of Mr. Nichols, and today during the presentation of Ms. Croft, when confronted with a death toll during his presidential election campaign, Mr. Duterte responded, "They said I killed 700? They undercounted. It was 1,700. As you also heard, Your Honors, on numerous occasions as mayor, Mr. Duterte claimed personal responsibility for the policy of killing drug suspects. Even prior to announcing his candidacy for the May 2016 presidential election, Mr. Duterte was already very clear about his intention to eliminate crime by eliminating criminals, applying nationwide the abusive crime control tactics. As reported in the Sunstar Philippines on 24 May 2015, he declared, and I quote, "If by chance that God will place me there, watch out, because the 1,000, referring to the person killed in Davao, because the 1,000 will become 100,000. You will see the fish in Manila Bay getting fat. That is where I will dump you." End of quote. 3 months after that speech, he renewed his pledge, and I quote, "If I become president, you better hide. That 1,000 will reach 50,000. I would kill all of you who make the lives of Filipinos miserable." End of quote. Mr. Duterte's outspoken vote to embark on a nationwide killing campaign against drug dealers and drug users was the foundation of his presidential electoral platform. During a campaign rally on 15 March 2016, he stated, quote, "When I become president, I will order the police to find those people dealing or using drugs and kill them. The funeral parlors will be packed." Following his election as president, as also explained this morning by Mr. Jeremy, on 9 May 2016, Mr. Duterte continued to declare unequivocally that his anti-drug campaign was focused on killing drug dealers and users. Speaking in Davao on 4 June 2016, he stated, quote, "If you are still into drugs, I'm going to kill you. Don't take this as a joke. I'm not trying to make you laugh, son of bitches. I will really kill you." End of quote. The next month, Mr. Duterte referred to children killed in his drug war as, I quote, "collateral damage." Mr. Duterte and his associates disregarded the most basilar principle of law, human rights, and human dignity. In September 2016, after the then UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon denounced the drug war killings, Mr. Duterte called him a fool, adding, quote, "I will continue the campaign against the criminals. I do not have any pity for them. I don't give a shit. I am the president of the Philippines, not the Republic of the international community." End of quote. In a Human Rights Watch report issued in March 2017, Mr. Duterte's first 6 months in office were labeled as a human rights calamity for the Philippines. Mr. Duterte repeated public statements encouraging the killing of alleged drug offenders were not rhetorical flourishes. They were operational directives. The repeated calls to kill alleged drug dealers and users is indicative of a government policy to direct an attack against a specific civilian population. Public statements encourage lethal force. Law enforcement operations were organized and resourced. The rhetoric of eradication was translated into practice. The scale, coordination, and continuity of operations, coupled with public encouragement of lethal enforcement, support the inference of policy. When violence is normalized, repeated, and institutionally defended, as in the present case, it reflects policy. Turning to the alleged liability of Mr. Duterte. The suspect is charged as indirect co-perpetrator under Article 25(3)(a) for committing the crimes jointly with others in furtherance of a common plan or agreement to neutralize through violent crimes including murder, individual perceived or alleged to be involved in drug-related and other crimes. In the alternative, he is also charged under Article 25(3)(b) for ordering or inducing the Davao Death Squad and later the national network to commit the crimes, and under Article 25(3)(c) for aiding, abetting, or otherwise assisting members of the Davao Death Squad and later the national network to commit the crimes. Victims submit that the evidence presented by the prosecution allows to conclude that there are substantial grounds to believe that Mr. Duterte is criminally responsible for the crimes charged. In particular, the evidence shows the existence of a common plan to kill individuals perceived by the authorities as implicated in drug-related crimes. The common plan originated in Davao in the late 80s when the suspect instructed members of the death squad, police officers, and non-police hitmen to conduct operations against the targeted individuals, provided funds and other resources to achieve the aim of the agreement. As already recalled, Mr. Duterte made unequivocal public statements encouraging police and civilians to kill alleged drug offenders. Such statements indicate an intent to use the country's law enforcement agencies to engage in murders. Mr. Duterte was proud of his achievements at the point that he put his method at the center of his presidential campaign. When elected president, he adopted the same method as in Davao nationwide and continued to state publicly and unequivocally that his anti-drug campaign would focus on killing drug dealers and users. Mr. Duterte relied on the support of the police, which he exercised effective control over, to execute the common plan. Their loyalty was reinforced through financial incentives, promotions, and the maintenance of a system of impunity. Mr. Duterte had full knowledge of the crimes. As the Chamber has already heard, on 15 March 2016 in Lingayen, he announced that if elected, he would order police to locate and kill individuals involved in drugs, warning that funeral parlors would be crowded. On 7 May 2016, the final day of the campaigning for the presidential elections, Mr. Duterte made it clear that his threats were to be taken literally, and I quote, "All of you who are into drugs, You sons of bitches, I will really kill you. I have no patience. I have no middle ground. End of quote. Madam President, Your Honors, the loss victims carry is not measured only in the death of a loved one. It is measured in the empty chair at the dinner table, the birthdays that will never be celebrated, the dreams that ended abruptly, and the futures that were taken from them. As one of the victims put it, and I quote, "My loved one was not perfect. None of us are. But he was a human being. He was someone's child, someone's parent, someone's partner. He deserved dignity, due process, and the chance to defend himself. Instead, his life ended without warning, without explanation, and without accountability. For many of us, the moment we learned of our loved one's death was the moment our own lives changed forever. We were left with questions that no one in authority would answer. We were left with fear that speaking out would put us in danger. And we were left with a painful knowledge that the institutions meant to protect us had failed us." End of quote. The trauma of these events did not end with the loss of life. It continues every day. Families were left to navigate grief while facing stigma and suspicion. Many were told implicitly or explicitly that their loved ones had deserved what happened to them. They were made to feel ashamed for seeking answers. Some were threatened when they tried to file complaints. Others were told not to bother because nothing would come of it. Children witness violence now struggle with fear. Parents who lost their children live with enduring guilt and despair. Entire communities still carry the memory of nights filled of sirens, shouting, and uncertainty. Your Honors, the victim's suffering is never abstract nor remote. It remains real, immediate, and ongoing. Your Honors, trauma is not always visible. It resides in the silence of the ones who are afraid to speak. It lives in the hesitation of a child who no longer feels safe walking outside, and in the constant fear of families who still look over their shoulders, wondering whether they will be targeted next. For the victims, the confirmation of charges is not merely a legal step. It is a recognition that their loved ones mattered. It is an acknowledgement that what happened to them was wrong. It is a message that they have not been forgotten. These proceedings offer something they had been denied in years: hope. Hope that the truth will be established, that the one responsible will be held to account, that future generations will not endure the same suffering. Justice cannot restore their loved ones, but it can restore dignity. Justice can affirm humanity. Justice can help them begin to heal. Madam President, Your Honors, for the purpose of the confirmation of a charges hearing, the prosecution must demonstrate substantial grounds to believe that Mr. Duterte committed each of the crimes charged. Victims submit that the evidence presented by the prosecution meets this evidentiary standard. The confirmation of all charges is not only legally warranted, it is essential to the integrity of international criminal justice. The evidence before this chamber establishes reasonable ground to believe that crimes against humanity of murder and attempted murder were committed in the context of our spread and systematic attack against the civilian population, and that Mr. Duterte bears individual and criminal responsibility under Article 25 of the Rome Statute. Your Honors, the victims have waited years for this moment. They have been silenced, stigmatized, and denied justice in their own country. Today, they stand before you with the hope that justice, long denied, may finally be within reach. This court is their last refuge, and today, on their behalf, we ask this chamber to affirm that their suffering matters, that their rights matter, and that the rule of law extends even to the most powerful, by confirming all the charges against Mr. Duterte and committing him to trial. This concludes my part, Your Honors. With your leave, I will give the floor to my colleague, Mr. Andres, for concluding our presentation. Merci beaucoup.
Judge Motoch, thank you very much.
Ano tawag?
Metro Andres, you have the
French.
floor.
Madam President, Your Honors, I am Gilbert Andres. My colleague, Ms. Masida, earlier submitted that Mr. Duterte's anti-drug campaign disproportionately affected the poor and marginalized. What were the conditions of the victims targeted by Mr. Duterte's anti-drug campaign? How poor and marginalized were his victims? The victims targeted by Mr. Duterte's anti-drug campaign were from low-income, high-density communities. In an urban setting, this meant that some victims live in an area of about 69,000 persons per square kilometer during the relevant period. A typical floor area of the house of a victim in these high-density communities was about 6 square meters. For some victims, their house was as small as the area of 2 tables in this courtroom. The victims' houses were typically made up of wood, used tarpaulin, plastic, light materials, and some broken hollow blocks. Any material that they could scavenge and utilize. As the victims lived in high-density communities, their neighbors knew them very well. The victims lived in close-knit communities. The victims' close-knit communities meant that they immediately knew if a person was an outsider to their community. And any traumatic event that happened to these victims in their close-knit communities was known and whispered throughout their community. As the victims were from low-income communities, to survive poverty, their houses were homes to multiple generations of their families to conserve their meager resources. For Filipinos, especially from low-income communities, their family is not just the nuclear family. It is not just the husband, the wife, the children. Their family extends to the grandparents, the lolo and lola, and the siblings of a spouse, the brothers and sisters. The breadwinner of the victim's family was usually the husband, the father of the children. The victims either worked as daily minimum wage earners or as wage earners below the prescribed daily minimum wage, or as part of the informal economy, such as a vendor. The victims worked if there was work available to earn for their family's survival. But most of the victims would not have completed their education, nor have the proper training to secure stable jobs as part of the formal economy. if they were fortunate to be employed as minimum daily wage earners. In the urban setting, this amounted to about 500 Philippine pesos per day, or approximately about 8 euros per day during the relevant period. But for most victims, the minimum wage was really the maximum that they can hope for. The victims only hope to earn at most about 8 euros per day. And for a family composed of the husband, the wife, and about 2 until 4 children, 8 euros per day is meager. There was also a cultural expectation for the breadwinners to help their elderly parents. The other spouse sometimes augmented this meager income by being a vendor or by taking temporary jobs. And if both parents were outside of their home, it was the extended family that took care of the children. Your Honors, the specific data may vary from victim to victim, but the victims hope that this data give the chamber a picture of their conditions under Mr. Duterte's anti-drug campaign. The already marginalized and vulnerable conditions of the victims exponentially multiplied the harm that they suffered, and they continue to suffer, which leads to our next submission. What were the grave effects and suffered harm of the victims, their families, and their communities resulting from the crimes charged against Mr. Duterte? Mr. Duterte's drug war campaign targeted the very humanity of the victims, of their families, and of their communities. In Filipino, the indirect victims expressed this in one sentence: "Inalisan kami ng dangal. We were stripped of our dignity."
Wala ka pang ebidensya eh.
How so?
Puro opinion.
First, Mr. Duterte publicly dehumanized the victims of his anti-drug campaign. This dehumanization of the victims
Kanina ka
was
pag Gabriel
used to
Andres.
justify
Puro opinion.
their eventual murders. On July 25, 2016, during his first State of the Nation address before the Philippine Congress, Mr. Duterte declared that, and I quote, "But human rights cannot be used as a shield or an excuse to destroy the country, your country, and my country."
Gumagawa ka
End of
naman
quote.
opinion.
What
Hindi
was
ka abogado.
chilling was that this portion of Mr. Duterte's speech garnered the most applause from members of the Philippine Congress and the public gallery.
Asan ang ebidensya?
On August
Ebidensya
17,
kailangan.
2016, during the 115th Police Service Anniversary at the Philippine National Police Headquarters, Mr. Duterte declared to the Philippine National Police that for those allegedly affected by drugs, and I quote, "And it has not only affected millions, but a lot of them are no longer viable as human beings in this planet."
Kaya ka naman opinion.
End of quote. On August 26, 2016, Mr. Duterte declared to a group of Filipino soldiers he visited in an army camp that, and I quote, "Crimes against humanity? In the first place, I'd like to be frank with you. Are they humans?
Opinion ka na naman.
What is your definition of a human being?"
Asan evidence?
End of quote. These public speeches of Mr. Duterte serve to condition the Filipino people on the excuse for the murder of the victims of his anti-drug campaign and how the murders were taken out, brazen, execution style.
Panay kwento.
These public speeches of Mr. Duterte were emblematic of findings that atrocity crimes were often preceded by the process of dehumanizing the identities of others
Hindi
to
pwede yung general
justify the
statement.
crimes.
Abogado ka pa, hindi.
Second, the murdered victims were dehumanized by how they were murdered. During their actual murders, the targeted victims were summarily accused as drug users or pushers without the benefit
Kailangan
of a
namin
judicial
ng
process,
ebidensya.
just
Papel.
like the one
Saan papel?
before this chamber. The victims were then murdered
Binanggit mo
inside
sila
their
ng testigo
homes
eh.
or within their own close-knit community. The victims who were murdered inside their homes were murdered in front of their family,
Basa ng
their
basa ka lang dyan.
spouse,
Scriptwriter ka.
their children, or their parent, especially in front of their mothers. Some of the victims were forcefully separated from the physical clutches
Si
of their
Atty.
family
Gabriel
members,
Andres ito,
protecting them
graduate ng University
from the
of the
direct
Philippines College of Law.
perpetrators of
Yan ang
Mr.
mga produkto ng
Duterte's
UP. Tingnan
anti-drug
nyo.
campaign. This was what
Kaparehan na
happened
sila ni
to the
Joel
son
Butuyan.
of a victim
Kapares
in
lang
the early
Joel
hours
ni
of a
Joseph Perses.
Thursday.
Ni
At
Dino
that
De Leon.
time, this victim, her son,
Puro opinion.
and her son's wife, who was pregnant and nearing delivery, were preparing to go to the hospital when 6 or 7 people dressed in black and who had guns suddenly entered their house, as recounted by this victim. And I quote, "My
Ayak
son
ang
kept
oras, tumigil ka
repeating,
na.
Mama,
Tama,
don't
ebidensya.
leave me." So I blocked the way. He pleaded again, saying, "I will come with you, just don't kill me.
O asan yung
Mama,
ebidensya
don't
dyan?
leave me."
Kwento ko lang ng kwento.
4
Asan ang ebidensya niyan?
officers were inside. One shouted at me, "Get out of the way." They pulled me down the stairs and yanked my hair. They had guns. My son pleaded again, "Mama, don't leave me." He was hugging, referring to his wife. They dragged me out into the street and put me on a motorcycle. Some victims begged the direct perpetrators for their lives, as witnessed by their family members. Some victims spontaneously took off their clothes to show to the direct perpetrators that they were clean. The home, which was supposed to be a shelter of security for the direct
Alam,
victims,
magaling. Magaling
became the
magkwento.
crime
Hindi
scenes
abogado ang
of
style
their
yun.
brazen murder.
Ang
The
hinahanap
targeting of the
ebidensya, hindi
victims in their
kwento.
own homes is explained by the Philippine National Police Command Memorandum Circular number 16-2016, which was earlier referred to also by the prosecution. It was issued on July 1, 2016, by the then Chief of the Philippine National Police, Ronald Bato de la Rosa, appointed by Mr. Duterte. The relevant portion of CMC 16-2016 states that, and I quote, "The actual house-to-house visitations of suspected drug personalities shall be the highlight of Project Tonghang." End of quote. Project Tonghang refers to Mr. Duterte's anti-drug campaign on barangay clearance operations. Ultimately, the murdered victims were now known in their close-knit communities with the stigmatized label of natokhang and as drug users, despite the lack of any judicial declaration. Third, the murdered victims of Mr. Duterte's anti-drug campaign were further dehumanized even after their death by the false narrative of nanlaban. After the actual murder, the murdered victims were falsely portrayed as nanlaban, that they allegedly fought back against the police despite being the helpless victims. After the murder, evidence of illegal drugs and/or paltik guns were even planted on the murdered victims as part of the modus operandi of the anti-drug campaign to allegedly show that the victims purportedly fought back. Thus, the murdered victims were not only known as natokhang and as drug users, they were also now known in their close-knit communities with the false label of nanlaban, or someone who fought back. But for the surviving family members of the murdered victims, the suffered harms do not end there. The extreme trauma brought by the sudden murder of the Tokhang victims was further carried over to their surviving family members. Some of the surviving family members were even imprisoned and charged with fabricated criminal complaints while they were still grappling with the trauma of the sudden attack and the murder of their loved ones. For the victim I earlier referred to, after her son was forcefully separated from them, she and her son's pregnant wife were both arrested and detained in a police precinct. While under detention, she was told to get her son from the morgue. But they were not actually released from detention. They were actually photographed with the foils and rocks handed to them, and afterwards they were charged with fabricated complaints relating to illegal drugs, as that victim narrates. And I quote, "While in detention, I learned that the same thing had happened to all the other detainees. Their stories were the same. It took more than a year before this victim was released from imprisonment.
Inuubos mo yung
The illegal imprisonment of surviving family members
Walang
was
kwenta.
part of the modus operandi to prevent the indirect victims from filing criminal
Ano to?
complaints
UP Kalism
against
bro.
the direct perpetrators
Ano ba ito mga
of Mr.
graduate nyo?
Duterte's anti-drug campaign. Thus, the document containing the charges in paragraph 19 refers to, and I quote, other violent crimes under Article 7.1, end of quote. Further, as the homes of the murdered Tokhang victims were the homes of multiple generations, how the murdered victims were brutally shot at have been traumatically witnessed by their family members, by their spouse, their children, or by their parents. This extreme trauma is a daily struggle for the surviving family members as they still live every day in the scene of the crime, their homes. This extreme trauma of the surviving family members also occurs when they see or about to encounter a police officer, or worse, the direct
Ay,
perpetrator
kabubuhan talaga.
in their community. But the extreme trauma of the surviving victims does not end there. The surviving victims were socially stigmatized in their close-knit communities with the label, "Natokhang sila," or "May natokhang sa kanila," which loosely translated means they have a family member killed in a
Ewan ko ba, bakit ganun
Tokhang
mga Filipino
operation.
lawyers karamihan? Hindi na
The
babanggit ang
surviving
evidence.
family members of the murdered victims were avoided and shunned in their close-knit community. The neighbors avoid the surviving family members, fearing for their own lives by reason of association with the murdered Tokhang victim. And the surviving family members usually mourn alone during the wake of their murdered loved ones. For some surviving family members who cannot endure this social isolation and continuing stigma, they eventually leave their close-knit community. The trauma and stigma are especially worse for the children of the murdered Tokhang victims. Aside from losing a parent, usually their father, who is the breadwinner, the children, as direct descendants of the murdered victims, were avoided at school or even bullied as the children of Natokhang. The children of the
Yeah,
murdered
panakwento,
Tokhang
walang ebidensya.
victims have to endure bullying, stigma, trauma, depression, and some even develop symptoms such as epilepsy. And because the murdered Tokhang victims were usually the breadwinners of their families, their death meant that their surviving family members were pushed toward further poverty. The surviving family members experienced extreme socio-economic dislocation with the murder of their breadwinner. Thus, Mr. Duterte's anti-drug campaign, aside from murdering victims from low-income communities, also brought about the breakdown of the families of the murdered victims. Mr. Duterte's anti-drug campaign destroyed the trust in the close-knit communities of the murdered Tokhang victims and ultimately destroyed the social fabric of these communities. Ultimately, Mr. Duterte's anti-drug campaign not only murdered people, but perpetrated state terror against low-income, marginalized communities across the Philippines. As a result, Mr. Duterte's anti-drug campaign shattered and terrorized these close-knit communities as a
Ay!
means of control.
Ebidensya, 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 ebidensya.
And ultimately, as the targeted victims of Mr. Duterte's drug war campaign were from marginalized, vulnerable communities, his drug war campaign was not really a war on drugs. It was a war against the poor. And the continued stigmatization of the indirect victims, the surviving family members, still persists until now. The children of the murdered victims are still suffering psychologically, mentally, and socio-economically. Their widowed mothers and their extended families, the grandparents, usually the grandmother, or aunts or uncles, also bear the burden of providing for the children of the murdered victims. And some surviving family members are still being visited or watched by the direct perpetrators to check on them. Last, what do these proceedings mean to the victims? The proceedings before this chamber are being watched intently by the victims because they see it as their first step towards the truth and towards justice. There is still a culture of denial that subsists even in the close-knit communities where the victims reside. The family members of the murdered victims still cannot openly discuss the murder of their loved ones in their close-knit communities. And some quarters supportive of Mr. Duterte even publicly claim that these murders under the drug war campaign allegedly never happened or were merely
Asar ako. Ay, naog si Duterte, walang ebidensya.
to the truth and to justice
Walang ebidensya.
under international law.
Panay kwento lang.
Madam President, Your Honors, the victims know that their murdered loved ones suffered under the charge of crimes against humanity for murder being charged against Mr. Duterte. Your Honors, the victims know, they have seen with their eyes, they have heard with their ears, and they have witnessed the barbarity of the murder wherein their loved ones' human dignity was never respected. Thus, the victims pray that this chamber confirm
Anong klase
the
itong
charges for crimes against humanity for murder
anong klase
against
itong
Mr.
abogado?
Duterte for the sake of the truth,
Yan,
for
yan.
the sake of
Hearing
justice for the victims.
Ay,
And so that the murderous legacy of Mr. Duterte's anti-drug campaign will not find new victims in the future.
ay,
Madam President, Your Honors,
graduate sa UP.
thank you for your time
Ang
and
ina mo,
kind
lubos
attention.
sa mga nanonood.
This ends the submission of the common legal representative for victims.
Hey,
May it please the chamber.
kabubuhan. The chamber is not pleased.
Judge Motok.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mr. Andres. I gather that you have finished. So the second day of our hearings has come to an end. In accordance with our schedule, the hearing is suspended until Thursday,
Okay,
26th.
wala na. Salamat naman. Salamat sa Diyos at natapos ng kaburing-buring na storytelling ala yung ginagawa. Ano ang problema? Ano ang pinapahiya niyo ang University of the Philippines College of Law eh. You do not talk about evidence. You are talking about what you feel, what you think, and you do not even provide references as to where can we find the evidence to support your claims. What kind of lawyers are you? Hindi lang po ang naistorbo dyan mga tao na umaatsa ng katarungan. Siyempre mga biktima dyan, pinirepresent nyo tapos kinikwento mo, hindi mo sila mga ano ng kwento mo. Dapat nagbigay ka ng ebidensya para mabigyan mo ng katarungan ng mga biktima. What kind of lawyer are you? Attorney Andres Gabriel? Ay. Mabay siguro dapat tanggalan ka ng tawag na kurso ng University of the Philippines. Ay nako. Mas maganda pa yung graduate ng ng pinaka low school, LOW school. Ay, maraming salamat po. Yet overall, lahat po sila wala silang binigay na ebidensya. Yung si Attorney Masida na taga France na abogado ng mga biktima, nagkwento rin, pero mas sensible ang kwento niya. She cited mga incidents ang sinasite niya. Hindi kagaya nitong opinionated itong si Gabriel Andres, lahat opinion. Ito si Attorney Masida na lawyer galing sa France ay maganda pagka-present niya, kaya lang wala din siyang ebidensya para maikabit kay Duterte. Kundi binanggit niya ng mga patayan, but how the best evidence is evidence itself. Kahit anong galing mong abogado, nobody can defeat evidence. Ang problema, evidence hindi nila binigay. Oh. Andres Disaya, si Gabriel. Sige, hanggang dyan na lang muna. Mag-vlog ako mamaya. May tatapusin na ako. At please like para may pinakasustansya ang follow-up doon sa istorya na kung saan may 18 Marine soldiers ang lumabas at tinistiguhan nila na nakita nila lahat ng mga maleta na dinala sa bahay ni Saldico. At ito'y binilang muna, sabi na binilang muna yung mga lahat ng pera na papaloob sa bawat maleta. At habang binibilang, binibidyo nila. So, in other words, walang nakalampas na kahit isang maleta bago nila dinideliver ay binubuksan, binibilang ang pera. Malay mo, baka yariin, baka laman doon ay papel lang. So, sigurado maraming ebidensya si Saldico. So, ngayon, ang mga litrato kanina pinresenta ng mga 18 Marine officers, Marine soldiers, ay yan po is sarili nilang kuhang litrato. At nakikita ninyo doon yung mga litrato ng tao na nagbibilang. At nakita ninyo roon ang mga isang litrato doon na pinapakita na si Goteza ay nagdi-deliver. Wala na, patay na, tapos ang pinakamatindi ron ay sila po na mga Marine soldiers ay ginamit ni Trillanes na para asikasuhin ang mga investigador galing International Criminal Court. At si Trillanes din ang gumawa ng paraan na maipapalit sa $2 milyong ang mga pera na nanggaling sa maleta. That is equivalent to 120 million pesos. At ibinigay doon sa ICC investigators. So ganun po, kabastos, ganun. Binili nila ang katarungan para ma-isyuhan ng warrant of arrest si Duterte. Ganun po. Sila, si Trillanes ang namili ng mga kung sino interviewin ng mga ICC. Dapat, kung totoo ang mission ng mga ICC investigators, dapat sila pupunta, walang pili-pili, kahit sinong biktima puntahan nila. Ang problema, si Trillanes ang namimili. So lahat nito na binibitbit nila at binigay sa ICC Prosecutor's Office ay mga pinili ni Trillanes. Ganun ka gago, ganun ka demonyo yung Trillanes. So ngayon, ang latest na balita ay nagsampa ng libel case si Trillanes laban kay Attorney Libby Baligod, yung abogado ng 18 Marine soldiers. So yan po. So the pure, the proud, the Marines, saludo ako sa mga Marine mo natin. I salute you. Kayo ang pag-asa ng bayan. Habang mag-celebrate tayo ng pagpatanggal kay Marcos Sr. bukas, sa diwa, isasayaw natin sa ating puso, ikakanta natin sa ating puso, lahat-lahat po isigaw sa ating bayan. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas at dapat mamamatay ang lahat ng kurap. Maraming salamat po. Okay. Ay tawagin ko lang sila. Sabi ni Chirling Krongge, desperado po kasi silang lahat para i-prosecute si Tatay Digong. Si Ulok mo, may mga pulis nakaw na mga ninakawan din nila ang malita. Helen Bagyo, good evening po. Si simpleng tao, Andres Disaya Gabriel. Attorney Andres Gabriel Andres or Andres Gabriel? What kind of lawyer are you? You are not one. You must be disbarred for fooling the people. Fooling the Filipino people. Sampahan ka kita ng kaso. 2 kayo ni Atty. Buto yan. So, Ulok mo, natapos ang kabubuhan ng UP. Yan mga UP University of the Philippines, I'm calling out on you. Yung Mr. ni Kwan, ano bang pangalan ni Mr. ni Attorney ni Kwan, ni Professor Cielo Magno? Anong bang ginagawa niyo dyan sa UP? Ibig magtuturo kayo ng kabutihan. Ang tinuturo ninyo ay pagnanakaw sa bayan. Kung paano mandaya. Ang tagal matapos si Panot. Panot din ako. Wag sinasayang lang, sinasadyang bagalan pagbabasa. Nagbabasa lang kayo yung ginawa niyo script sa Glenn Mac, sabi wala talagang ebidensya. Anyari, Benbarte, ano man nangyari sa mga kan mo, pinagmamayabang nila. Appeal to emotion pero walang ebidensya. Ang appeal to emotion ang tawag diyan argumentum ad misericundiam. Ulok mo, lost ka na. Cynthia De La Peña, what is the impact of war on drugs? Many supported fairly peaceful and safe. Idiots kayo lahat. Breadwinner, ibig sabihin pusher kasi nagbebenta ng drugs para magbibili ng pagkain sa pamilya. Tapos Dave in your dreams. Gago yan, boss. Parang si Conte rin yan, attorney ng mga NPA. Ulok mo, reference nila si Trililing at Dilema. Saba, Buaha. Ben Maruete, yung mga foreigner, pag nag-present ng speech, meron kagad reference. Yun ang pagkakaiba. No? Bakit ang mga foreigner na magpresenta? Si Attorney Masida na French lawyer ay nagpresenta siya ng kanyang presentasyon at ang pinesenta niya po ang lahat na nangyari na patayan. Pero meron siyang reference, meron siyang ebidensya. Hindi kagaya ng mga Filipino lawyers na I take exception to that. You are Filipino lawyers, we are Filipinos, but we are a lot better than you are. Fight for your right. Lalo na yung mga inimmortalize yung mga ginagawa ni Digong kabutihan. Lalong inimmortalize. Lalong sumikat si Digong sa kwan. Yung mga subscribers ko nagsasabi na mga asawa na ay AFAM, nanonood sila sa hearing Naku, sabi nila, lalo silang napabilib kay Duterte. Yun ang sabi nila ng mga husband nila. Saan ang ebidensya mo? Claims na naman yan, Mr. UP. Ad sa Charalban, mga NPA na sa ICC na. Man, ano na kaya pinaglalaban nila? Puro pala ng biktima ng mga adik. Grabe, no? Virgie Piquero, walang kwentang confirmation. Hearing. Pagkatapos, Batman sa Lapudin. Oy! Si board member sa Lapudin, kumusta? Diyan sa Simunol. Tawi-tawi. Sa Sitangkay. Sitangkay Baliling, pasibuto. Naalala ko Baliling. Ilan ang biktima at ilan tao ang kabataan na walang malay na may biktima ng drug poser? Sana alam na natin. Ulok mo, okay. Obit Tilardi, how about the story of the murder and rape made by the drug user? There are many victims of drug addicts. How hope your family to a victim of the drug users? Okay, sino pang iba? Si Virgie Piquero. May speech contest. Nagkamali ata. Declamation contest ata ito eh. ICC paid by Marcos admin breaking news. Text Marines, 18 Marines. Okay, Ben Marwerte, baka hinahanap niyo picture na naman ni Binaril si Iperade. Fight declamation, ganyan ginagawa ko noon. Elementary ako during commencement exercising. Declamatory nga, declamation eh. Papa, Mama, miss you. Virgie Piquero, mga certified NPA at adik kaya galit kay Duterte. Jennifer Libor, magaling sila Andres, bunto yan. Pag bubuntugin ko ulo nila. Si Joel buto yan, buto yan. Ulok mo, si Untog yung dalawa, buto yan, at Andres. Okay, Anyari TV, sa totoo lang, kala ko talaga pari. Kala na pari. Orlando, appealing to emotion. Virgie Piquero, rich country Islam ICC because they are corrupt court or business corrupt. Tapos Floranda, attorney, anong nangyari sa iyo? Nangyari sa akin po, pinaglalaban ko katarungan, katotohanan, at hindi nito pinaglalaban nyo laban kay Duterte na wala namang ebidensya. Okay? May namatay, pero hindi si Duterte ang papatay. Panayabang lang yun kay Duterte. Wala hanggang doon, yabang lang yun. Abogado pala yan, sir. Abogado yan. Fight for your right now. Puro speeches ang evidence nila. Virgie Piquero, ICC Bulok. Tapos Ben Marwerte, kahapon na sinasabing evidence, kailangan mo lang i-connect ang mga dots. Wala. How can you see the dots? It's not around. Parang pare, look mo correct. Tapos, sino pang iba? Pibing Liz, kalukuhan, normalize ang drug. Okay, David Santos, Paldo si attorney. Sinong attorney Paldo? Wala akong pera dito. Wala akong tinatanggap Wala akong tinatanggap. Para lang pinaglalaban ko lang kung anong batas natin. Dahil sa nung kinidnap sila si Digong, ang binalahura nila hindi lang si Digong kundi ang batas at konstitusyon natin na nag-uutos na walang sinuman ang pwedeng arestuhin na walang proseso ng batas at walang warrant of arrest sa ating korte. So, ban na. ICC paid by Marcos. Ito na, maglalabas ng 18 Marines. The 18 Marines will prove that Trillanes took money and gave it to ICC investigators. Ang mga ICC investigators nagsashopping pa rito, ang escort mga Marines. At saka may binigyan pa ng Trillanes ng mga babae, yung mga investigators. Puta, pati mga babae natin, binibenta mo. Grabe. Sino pa? Efrain Malbas, tama ka idol. Yan, NPA, si Colmenares. Tapa ito si Colmenares, kaya hindi na nalo-nalo bakit hindi ko alam? Bigyan nyo ako ng idea bakit ang kanyang pamangkin, anak ng kapatid niya, si Angel Locsin ay napakaganda. Bakit si Nery Colmenares, bakit hindi gwapo? Kung si Miriam pa magsalita, may nanligaw doon sa kanya noon, bata pa siya, ang ganda-ganda ni Miriam noong araw. May nanligaw sa kanya, sabi niya, sagutin mo ako kahit hindi ako gwapo. Lahi namin mga gwapo naman kaya sagutin mo ako. Tinanong siya ni Miriam, bakit sa dugo namin gwapo ako? Bakit sa dugo mo lang hindi lumabas sa mukha mo? Sabi ni Miriam. May mga pulis Dakaw na nakawat. Dami talaga pulis pumatay, sa totoo lang. Tapos, simpleng tao, Primo Junior DA nagsalita ng Navy na iba doon ay hindi member ng Philippine Navy. Ay, kwento na lang yan. Kung awol, hindi na ka member, panay naman sila retired na. Ano ka ba? Mabuhay Marine ng Philippines. So, Plat 06, iyak sila. Okay, Helen Baguio. Sokdolan ng galit si Trililing sa Duterte. Jack Baabatan. Agyamanak, mga Marines. Nagpagawa yata si Tatay Digong ng rehabilitation para sa mga drug offenders. Pinky Lacson at Bonjing Remulla, yari kayo ngayon sa sinisiwalat ng mga Marines na kasamahan. Kasama si Boying Remulla sa siniwalat ng mga Marines. Naku. Kasi once a Marine is always a Marine kahit na retired na. Kaya tawag sa kanila Marines pa rin. Katotoong element po ng crimes against humanity, ang mga elements, number 1, kailangan may mayroong systematic killing, massive, dapat maramihan. Bakit 75 lang nilabas na minamatay? Pagkatapos dapat may polisiya. At ang polisiya dapat alam ni Duterte ang mga bawat pamamatay. Yan ang pinakamatinding elemento. Ang problema, wala pa silang pinalabas na ebidensya na alam ni Duterte ang bawat patayan. Si Roberto Causing, oy, kabag-anak, Uncle Robert, kumusta ka na? From Davao de Oro, si Uncle Manny, Causing, dyan sa Digos, Davao del Sur. Elena, sila po ay may mga abogado ng mga adik. Simpleng tao, ang ICC Kupal ay crimes against humanity daw. Pray for Palestine, free Duterte. Tapos, mga Palestino, kakampi si Duterte. Simpleng tao, Pepsi Soto. Oy, ano na nangyari kay Pepsi Paloma? Lacson, Bendalo, Tulpo at Bonjing Remulla. Yari kayo ngayon sa siniwalat ng Marines. Patay kayo ngayon. Zomera, hello po, watching from Saudi. Simpleng tao, Attorney Andres Disaya, Gabriel at Attorney Butuyan. Tapos Zomera, nakakalungkot 3 taon, walang alam ang taong bayan. Tapos sino pa? Jel Angeles. Katoto, kakamping po ako pero suporta na po ako sa Duterte. Sobrang talagang salamat. Salamat po, Jel. At ako kakamping din ako dati. Ganyan naman na nagbagong isip ko. Kasi marami tayong kasamang kakamping. Kumampi kay BBM. Naku, naasar ako. Maraming salamat sa lahat. Paki-like para meron kayong notice pag ako'y mag-live. Tapos, paki-member naman sa aking channel, 75 pesos a month lang naman po yan. Kung may sobra kayo, ay pakibigyan nyo naman ako ng, sa aking GCash. Itong GCash ko po. Pasensya na kayo, pobreng alindahaw po ako eh. Wala akong lisensya pag abogado, hindi ako pwede magtrabaho. Deposito lang aking video savings account. Basta ako naman, ang trabaho ko, bibigyan ko kayo ng dekalidad na vlogging. Hindi na vlogging na marites. Okay ha? Pangalan ko ay maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. At sa ulit, no? Maraming salamat po.